left open, given over to Broxah. It was a pick that we thought H2K should be scared of, but they did such a good job of shutting down the early pathing, and it never really got a chance to come back into the game.
Last 2 games, Fnatic been on red side, where they were trying to get last picks for some of their solo laners. This game, they're back on blue side, banning this Elise again, making sure that Jankos can't pick it up in the first rotation. We're still looking at Gnar and Syndra as 2 of the key picks in this draft. Gnar gets removed by H2K for that reason.
Now looking for more. What's the adaptation going to be? Why have Fnatic chosen this blue side? What can they get their hands on? Jarvan's still up and available.
How about a Tristana?
I was thinking ooh, interesting. Fnatic are actually the ones to ban away the Jarvan. So I feel like H2K, do they now leave the Tristana up and then trade Xyaha for Tristana? Or do they ban away the Xyaha, force Fnatic onto the Trist, and then they try and answer with a Sidra or something?
I would ban Tristana personally, but let's see what H2K has in mind.
Yeah, but at the same time, Deficio, when we look back at the series, every time Rekkles gets Xyaha, he has a massive CS lead in lane.
Give him an even better AD carry then and see what happens. They ban away Tristana though, and yes, of course, he will pick the Xyaha for himself, so that is a good thing for Fnatic. Sivir is open for H2K if they want to actually play that, which was what we saw from Fnatic's side.
Saw how much impact that champion can have.
Classic Odoamne hover.
That actually shows he's in good spirits. That's what you want to see.
Hey, Namaukai as well. The 2 picks he's actually famous for, weirdly enough.
Cho'Gath makes a return. France is not a fan.
But now, he won't have to play into sOAZ's Gnar. Now looking back into game 1, H2K did in fact pick the Cho'Gath, and it was a Galio that was played by sOAZ into this matchup. And that was the game where H2K were able to win. They found a lot of good early pressure, but it was mainly the setup in the middle lane, thanks to things like the Ashe arrow, thanks to the plays from Jankos on the Sejuani, and most importantly, the roaming Rakan on Chei, which he will not be able to get his hands on.
And this also still means that H2K, actually, with the last pick in the first phase, could lock in their mid laner and try and ban out Caps a little bit. If they do pick like a Syndra, you can ban the Vladimir this time around. So H2K with this first rotation looking very good in this draft. I think it's fine for him to give away Xyaha to actually get Cho'Gath without Gnar available and Ashe.
And Broxah back on the Gragas. Not the greatest pick for him, but was successful when paired with some kind of setup coming in the mid lane. Maybe this is where the Syndra will make her appearance. He had the option, as you mentioned, to ban out some of those other mid lane options. H2K have to be painfully aware of the potential for that pick, but it looks like Engage might just be the name of the game coming in for Fnatic.
So this is an identical draft to what Fnatic did back in game 1. They drafted themselves a strong 2 versus 2 very early on, and they made sure that Broxah also had a form of engage, but more importantly, follow-up engage, because of Jesiz on the Alistar. Really good way of being able to start a lot of fights. And what Fnatic were able to do is they got a lot of pressure down bot, but then they failed to translate that across the rest of the map. They tried too many times to make plays happen, and H2K effectively punished them.
Going with the Braum here, also working well against the Xyaha in the bottom lane. 2 tank supports once again. Jesiz on this Alistar, hoping he can find a bit more success than what we've seen in the past from him.
I wonder if we see the Syndra ban here as well, because I think that we saw how effective the Braum can be against Syndra in the previous game and how much damage it can mitigate, but it's still a risk purely because of the amount of early pressure that Syndra has in many lane matchups.
And also just the pure comfort for both mid laners on that specific champion is always something to highlight. But once again, we have so many mid laners open. Cassiopeia, Corki, Orianna are all available until now, where the Corki gets banned away by Fnatic. So both teams looking towards the mid lane. H2K do have the option to counter pick this time around. So if Vladimir is left open, they could give Syndra over and take Vladimir on their side for Febiven.
Obviously, a lot of debate in terms of what they want to leave open. H2K not sure what the landscape is going to look like. Very similar picks locked in these early phases. Not sure what their priority should be.
H2K, they've often banned the Galio, but instead they will take the Syndra off the board. So, just gonna have a very quick check. I believe... No, I thought this was the only game where we won't have a Syndra, but it was not in fact picked in game 1.
Does move us either towards the Orianna blind pick or the Cassiopeia blind, or just wait with H2K's mid laner and just lock in a jungler instead. Sejuani is still available. It is no longer available because it's been A successful pick for Jankos so far. In terms of other tank junglers,
Zach.
there is Zach, there is Maokai.
4 consecutive games of the Sejuani for Jankos. What will he pick now into game 5?
I mean, we have to remember that Zach is super good at playing around mid lane. So if they want to go back to that style of trying to camp caps, then Zach is the go-to choice here for Jankos.
Cassio locked in. Potentially a safe blind pick. We've seen Galio picked into this G2 versus Splice series. Don't know how it stacks up here.
Orianna is also a fine choice for caps in this mid lane. And of course, then he needs to respect the potential camp that could happen with my ass man to like a Zach jump. But saving that last pick jungle for H2K also means there is a lot of options for Jankos. There's a lot of junglers who are just slightly under like the S and A tier right now. I feel like the B tier junglers is very, very large. There's even things like a Kayn that can be used, but some teams do not like it. There's a Rek'Sai as well.
I've been giving you the dirtiest look for the past 30 seconds because I knew you were going to say Rek'Sai again, Deficio. You want to see it, but I don't know if you're going to get it today. Fnatic really debating this final pick. Looks like it will be the Trundle coming in on the top side. A little bit of an answer there.
So they want to give sOAZ that split push carry threat. In the late game, he will be a terror. Think back to game 1, H2K versus G2. Odo had that Trundle into a Cho'Gath. He was doing a lot of work, but then once the ban dropped, they couldn't get a lot of pressure because it was always forced to group with the team, and that's something that H2K could do. They have a nice team planning card.
Oh! The unintentional prediction trying to meme me! Ah, Kayn!
Broxah was the meme. Kayn was definitely not the meme.
All right, but in all seriousness here, I'm a little worried about the engage from H2K because if they had a Zac, they have a pretty strong way to start the fights. But now,
it's Kayn.
Yes, it is Kayn. It's exciting. It's fun. But Ashe Arrow with a follow-up from Cho'Gath is pretty much the best way you're going to find a fight. And
but
you're going to have to
Kayn,
deal with a Gragas and an Alistar just constantly standing in your way. So I'm worried about how H2K can force these late game fights. I feel that with this Kayn pick, you're very much relying on getting an early game lead.
And it's good that you mentioned the Kayn pick because that's what I want to talk about. What is Kayn going to do here?
Early game lead, early game. He's all about counter jungling, getting in your face. You're a Kayn expert, you should know.
I know, but I wanted to set you up. I spam this champion. It's fantastic. But that's not important because we are gearing up for game 5, gentlemen. There is so much on the line for both these teams. Remember, H2K are at the bottom of the gauntlet. Fnatic are at the top. A win here could prove so much for matches to come. That will be the final handshake as teams get ready. They start to load into the final lobby. Oh my.
Cowbell, baby!
What is the cowbell?
Oh, I love Paris.
And Jesiz is playing Alistar too. The only way it could be better is he does it as well.
Well, we'll find out momentarily. Last chance, vote at LCS eSports. Hashtag FNC win. Hashtag H2K win. This is it, folks. Game 5, the battle for 3rd place. Both teams hoping to fight for that final spot at Worlds. They'll move to the gauntlet. Everything on the line here. All the games before do not matter. This is the best of 1. This is the final match to decide it all.
Match 5.
Game 5, baby. You can hear Paris alive and well.
In this game here, we have the Trundle counter pick for sOAZ up in the top lane. It is his kind of champion where you can sit in that side lane and be as annoying as possible. His damage against turrets is fantastic after we buffed him a few patches ago. But in team fights, he can be a little bit hard to execute because you are very based on have your ulti up and running, be tanker while that's happening, and then also try and use your pillar against 2 carries that do not have any escapes. Ashe and Cassiopeia are very open to getting CC down. It all starts with the pillar from sOAZ and then follow up from an Alistar, from a gragas. I think this Fnatic teamfight comp is super, super good against these low mobility carries on the side of H2K. But then there's Kayn in late game teamfights. And yes, Vedi, you talk about the early game. While he can definitely look to counter jungle, his skirmish is not the greatest, his damage is not that insane very early on. But when he gets his tank form, the Rast form in teamfights, he's so hard to play against. Like his CC with his W, his ulti to get almost full HP back when he uses it on a tank.
It's the sustain that really makes it.
He's actually a really good team fighter and good against tanks because he also builds Black Cleaver. So it's not all about just pure snowball, but definitely can be hard to have an impact if you don't actually get some counter jungling also.
So let's keep an eye on this early level cheese from H2K.
Oh, the early flash out. They're going to be able to get the stun and a bunch of health as well. Looks like Nuclear says, hey, I was losing out in this match before. Let's mix things up a little bit.
Do you guys remember many years ago when Ashe's passive was that guaranteed crit?
Yes.
This cheese used to work really, really well, even
remember,
better than this one.
remember.
They got a flash though, it's still a win for H2K, but throwback to the old days of sitting in a Broxah's Ashe level 1.
You would go back old school, wouldn't you, Deficio?
It's a classic strategy back then.
But I want to talk a little bit more about this Kayn, because you're right, Deficio. His skirmishing, not very good. What makes him really strong in the early game is largely his clear speed in the jungle, but also the amount of mobility and creative pathing that he can take in the enemy jungle thanks to his E. It gives him a healthy amount of sustain as well, and he has a lot of versatility. And talking to a lot of junglers, people like Maxlaw and Xerxes, they always said the biggest thing is that you do want to be stealing away a lot of the enemy camps, and you want to just be obnoxious towards the enemy jungle. You don't have to kill him, you don't have to force him out, you just have to be irritating and make his life as difficult as possible.
And then you get all the extra farm, you get your Black Cleaver, and then you start going into team fights, and again, you can actually have value against tanks. So there is definitely a case to be made for Kayn to be a very strong jungler. There's just so few junglers in Europe who actually wants to play him. But this is, of course, a Game 5 in Paris. Why not pick the Kayn?
Because you could lose, that's why.
Yeah. They could have just gone Zac, which would be the safer one, but it is Jankos. He's feeling great right now. He wants to carry.
And he has a level advantage right now over the Gragas. This is an easy invade for Jankos if he just wants to burn the Shadow Step. Is going to move forward, throwing out the Blade's Reach. Looking for the slash as well. We'll just pick up a little bit of XP here, but is bullying Broxah out of his jungle. Chei here as well. Great utilization of the early pressure, but Broxah still grabs so many Krugs.
And you can see some practice here from H2K in this early game. Having Ashe and Braum hide in that Tribush level 1 to get the best start possible so they can push the bottom lane. Allows Jankos to then do his full clear into an invade, knowing Chei can join him. So the whole thing here is planned. H2K is one of those teams who plans out the entire early game beforehand, and they're following it step by step at the moment. Let's see if we can even get something mid.
Paying attention, Drakos, look at this. Kayn, early gank mid. Let's see if he can snowball for Febiven.
Moving forward, Blades.
He snowballed caps instead.
Not going to find the snowball. A little bit more pressure potentially on the mid lane, but Cap's pretty comfortable knowing that without any CC, that's a pretty hard kill to set up.
But also just a bit of a reminder for the viewers at home. The way in which Jankos will stack up his passive is by dealing damage. Melee champions will give him Rust points, whereas hitting ranged champions will give him Shadow Assassin points. And the crucial thing is who he last hits just before he goes for the transformation. If he accidentally hits a ranged champion just as the bar fills up, he'll be forced to wait 4 minutes for that Rast form. So
he goes Shadow Assassins and carries the
he
whole
could
thing.
also do that.
And of course, as we get a little bit further into the early game, a quick welcome to everyone joining us on NA LCS 1. Dignitas versus CLG will start after this Game 5 here in Paris. Special shout out to anyone waiting in Boston. Proud to have you here and watching. But now back to H2K versus Fnatic. I think after last game, after those close late game team fights, inevitably we need to talk about the supports and what the supports are bringing to the table. Because once again, we have a Braum. Crazy value on that breakable, but Jesiz on the Alistar has also been incredibly clutch for Fnatic.
If he's able to find the early roams, he can actually go in and try and kill Febiven. But he needs to get out of the lane first, and that's difficult because they're getting pushed down. The Braum here was a great pick against the Alistar for the laning phase also. And then the Ashe is one of those champions that can actually match Xyaha in the early game. Very long range, good early trades. So it's a good lane for Nuclear and Chei. And they're constantly just trying to get Chei to group up with Jankos, invade the jungle, and see if they can find some more camps they can steal away.
But now I'm kind of just waiting to see where Jesiz is going to make that first play. So much of that early playmaking was shut down by kind of the cheesy level 1 coming in from H2K now that they're
great
behind.
level 1.
The great level 1, yep. But also, we're waiting for the first back as well from both sides, because once Jesiz gets himself boots, he's going to have way more options to roam around the map. But also, trying to set up a play just on the Orianna, you need Broxah there as well. Notice Febiven going for the heal rather than anything like the cleanse, because there's no real hard CC that he has to avoid. And speaking of supports, Chei looking to set up onto Jesiz.
Looking at that last auto, not going to find it. Blade's reaching a bit of damage, but Jankos, once again, not the biggest threat. Of course, in the last game, you can see kill participation very high. Actually, all-star performances from both of our supports in the previous game.
Yeah.
While Jesiz did suffer early, he kind of made up for it in the late game, but Chei was pretty consistently a lethal threat throughout the entire series.
And we really wanted to highlight their performance in Game 4, because a lot of eyes were on both AD carries, the amount of damage that they were doing, but the setup, the peel, the protection, everything was so good from both supports that if they were missing clutch abilities, that could have been the determining factor in a lot of those.
Hey, look at that. Chei in the jungle again with Jankos, trying to make life horrible here for Broxah. You also have a mid push coming from Febiven, so the coordination here from H2K is really good, again, with this planned out early game of having that bot lane that can push and then play around it with Jankos as well. Broxah really wants to try and steal away the red.
Has to be careful though. If he gets stunned up, if Jankos gets level 6, there is a decent amount of kill pressure there. But H2K, I think they're starting to notice. We've seen when Broxah can make early plays, a lot of things go in the favor of Fnatic, but he's so much of his time, he's now been shut down. Can't really make any plays anywhere when he's fighting for his own jungle.
But because Jankos also have been, you know, so busy in Broxah's jungle, he's not actually killed his own camps just yet. Broxah is hitting level 6 before Jankos, but obviously now Jankos can go back, clear his entire topside jungle, and then get the XP.
Nuclear bullied out as well. Downside of not having a support in the lane. Odoamne moving into check. Just wants to make sure that red buff is safe and secure. Lost eyes on the Trundle. Doesn't want that one to get taken away to go to his lane opponent. Now it's going to be Broxah who's coming in. Broxah who's looking to invade. Jankos level 6 though, going to make it hard for Broxah to find any purchase. Umbral Trespass, incredibly good against the Gragas combo.
And we've talked a fair amount about Broxah and how he has struggled in this early game so far, but throughout the series, we did wonder how he would be able to perform because his team fighting in his last series versus Misfits was something that was left to be desired. And on Elise, naturally, it is very difficult to have that same level of late game impact. But on his previous Gragas games this series, he really has been stepping up. And I think that both junglers have been really big contributors to a lot of their team's success.
Yeah, we wanted to see Broxah actually try and body slam, flash engage, and set something up for his team. sOAZ, he's currently left on his own.
Moving forward, stack goes in. Gonna get a decent amount of damage down. He has the flash available, sOAZ wants to get out. Umbral Trespass means Jankos can follow. Timing has to be good. sOAZ just trying to hold on for dear life. Umbral Trespass will be used. He goes in, he goes out. sOAZ goes down. That's gonna be first blood coming in game 5.
And so the early game advantage going in favor of H2K. I was skeptical of the Kayn pick. I was worried whether or not they'd be able to make it work. But they've successfully been able to set up early invades. They've been able to get some early ganks thanks to the great synergy between Jankos and Chei once again. And more importantly, they've put pressure onto the split pusher of sOAZ.
Yeah, we gotta highlight the fact that sOAZ actually knew that Jankos was topside, because Broxah even saw him with the vision plan. They knew those were the only camps left for Jankos to kill. And the fact that sOAZ then still actually stepped forward to try and place down a ward, I believe it was, in that tri-bush.
Yeah, he walked on tower side towards the tri-bush.
So he just put himself in a really, really risky spot, and he just got punished for it. Jankos picked up a very easy first blood.
That's not really a mistake you can afford to make in the early game against a Kayn jungle. You know, matchup that you're supposed to come out on top. Cho'Gath versus Trundle. Nuclear, though, doing well in that exchange, getting a lot of health down, but traded back. Broxah is now on the bottom side. Maybe Fnatic are hoping to make a play here. Jankos gives over the blue buff.
And I want to talk about what's going to happen, you know, later on in this game with Trundle versus Cho'Gath. While Trundle will do very well in the 1v1, the answer for Cho'Gath is going to be rush towards Baron. It's the goal for every Cho'Gath player. Even after like 22 or 23 minutes, you can do it because it forces the split-pushing champion to actually join the team and try and contest the Baron. And that's always what we see from these Cho'Gath team comps. So while Trundle will be strong 1v1, there's definitely ways for Cho'Gath to still play this game and be very useful, and it is just around the Baron and then team fighting.
Jankos moving. Jesiz looking to throw down a little bit of vision. Jankos just going to use the shadow step, though. Not all vision is effective against Kayn. Fighting for the ward. Blade's reach won't connect. Only a slow right now in the base form. So wouldn't have been too lethal either way, but Jankos putting down a lot of pressure.
I'm looking at these CS scores. You can see after the top lane gank, top is very even right now. Mid going slightly in favor of Caps, but now, Nuclear actually having the advantage. It culminates a lot from the early play that they made at level 1, the slight pressure that Jankos has been able to put down. But even though Chei has been roaming around the map, Nuclear is still performing well in this 2 versus 2, and it just goes to show that he has been progressively improving throughout this series.
Oh, Broxah just snuck his way into the brush here in the bottom lane. They know it's not warded either.
Febiven waiting the brush will get his back canceled as well. Now pulled back. Good damage laid down by Caps. He's going to have the pressure advantage in the mid lane. Febiven going to be forced to give up a wave if he wants to come back healthy.
The ward there just expired, but I think
arrow.
maybe they saw him.
We've seen this play before. Ooh.
Down the bottom lane though, Broxah snuck his way into another brush. He's going!
Moving forward, finds the slam, looking for the kills to be traded back. Fnatic want to get this in. That's going to be the Featherstorm. Blade Caller should still be available. Chei trying to run his life out. Is he going to get it? Rekkles.
The ward H2K had in that side lane brush just disappeared the second before Broxah walked into it. They thought they were safe because they didn't see him at first. He stayed, he waited, and then he executed the gank. I was about to say, this looked like a standard H2K early game where it's all planned out, it's all slow and steady, they know exactly what's happening, and the only thing that could go wrong for them was an unexpected play. What just happened in the bot lane? Unexpected.
That was quite unexpected for the H2K bottom lane. And let's
Look
just
at
keep
his
our eye on the vision.
Wait, they saw him!
No, I think
Oh,
it
did
just
not?
ran
Okay,
out. Yeah,
okay.
just as he walks into the brush, it does run out.
I got baited by the vision there.
Yeah, they're not fully aware of whether he's in the brush. The moment Nuclear oversteps just slightly, the combo is just too real. And a really good ulti there from Rekkles as well to dodge out the ulti from Chei. So remember, back to game 1. Fnatic were able to get this bot lane early lead. They were just winning in the 2 versus 2. They took that bot tier 1, but then they kept making plays towards the bottom side, and that's where H2K punished them. Now, will we see H2K?
Oh, it's Chei who's going to get punished. Goodbye. Fnatic finding another pick. The bot lane started so good for H2K, but things looked so bad after those last 2 exchanges.
sOAZ has even snuck his way down to do Rift Herald here. He left his own top lane where there's actually a way for him to kill. Broxah is around, so is Caps. It looks to be a Rift Herald for Fnatic, but Odoamne can move down. Jankos is around as well if they want to try and at least contest it. They spotted, oh actually no, that's Fnatic's vision plan, so they don't spot it just yet, but Odoamne, he figures out something is happening down here.
Moving in. Odoamne's hungry. Throws out the knockup. Rift Herald's still alive.
Oh, Jankos is
Now
over the
trying to
wall.
Knock him down.
Jankos in
in
there.
the middle of the pit. Rift Herald does go. Jankos is going to need to hit somebody. Doesn't even get the chance to ult. Cap's going to find the kill.
Look at the face of Broxah, Fnatic. They're feeling good. The early game now going in their favor. Things are looking bright for H2K. They were utilizing the Kayn extremely well. They were holding their own in all the lanes. Arrow not going to be able to interrupt the Rift Herald. And now Fnatic, they've brought their bottom lane to the rest of the map. They're looking to take down this tier 1.
Moving forward. Should be tower first blood, second blood rather, going down in the favor of Fnatic. 3K, almost 4K gold lead in their favor 14 minutes in. After H2K's beautiful snowball in game 4, they say, hey, anything you can do, we can do better. Showing it here.
And let's just give a lot of credit to Broxah, one of the members that was criticized so much after Fnatic's loss in that semi-final. He went bot lane, snuck his way in, executed a gank that gave Fnatic 2 kills. Then he goes top lane, secures the Rift Herald for the team as well. And 3 assists for him, and suddenly a 3,000 gold lead for Fnatic due to some very good ganks.
All it took was 1 or 2 plays to blow the game wide open. It felt like H2K were in complete control of the early game, but Fnatic fired back harder and faster as they move later.
So now H2K, they're going to have to wait for Jankos to get his Rast form before they can really start forcing any more plays. They're at a slight deficit in the bottom lane. Infinity Edge yet to be completed for Nuclear. Febiven looking good, but they're actually going for a gank top.
sOAZ moving in, Blades Reach connects now, moving forward with the Reaping Slash as well. Good use of the item actives coming in from Odoamne, trying to make it in. The nom nom nom, gonna get him.
When in doubt, gank sOAZ. I feel like that's been a trend of this series, but also just a thing you can do. sOAZ, he wasn't aware of the sneaky gank, but Fnatic, they're trying to get something back.
They open to steal this away. Oh, it's Rekkles who's going to get it in the end. Definitely not what Cassio wanted to see. But now H2K are going to get a tower back of their own.
Febiven, he forgot he's not on Fnatic anymore. He's actually setting that up for Rekkles specifically.
And now Rekkles, he has Jesiz in the bottom side. He's trying to push, and there, the Rast, it's coming through. Thank you for pointing it out, guys.
We're pointing at each other furiously, Vedius. Thank you for calling us out about it on cast. But
we were both agreeing it was a horrible joke. That's basically what I feel like doing thumbs down. We're like,
Oh, I see.
that was terrible. That
I
was
thought
terrible.
you were both pointing at the Rast, and I was like, I can see, yes. Now, Rast. Let's talk about Rast, gents, because you love Rast. I know you love Rast.
I do love Rast.
And you were talking a lot about it earlier, Deficio, where in teamfights, he's actually really obnoxious because of the amount of sustain that he gets on all of his abilities. His ulti does max percentage health damage, which means against tanks, especially like Broxah, he just shreds through them. And it looks like that he has decided to just max his main damage abilities. He doesn't care about roaming. He doesn't care about the sustain on his E. He gets plenty of sustain through doing damage.
Yeah, because I think it's also worth highlighting, like, his W in teamfights as Rast is super, super powerful. Like, fairly long range, great CC, 8 seconds cooldowns at the moment. He's going to get a Black Cleaver to reduce it even more. So he's actually offering quite a lot of utility while still dealing quite a bit of damage due to his Black Cleaver build.
And Vedius, of course, the change too on the scaling on the Q makes it so that the Q is doing max health damage as well. Will suffer in the bases, may not be as good at killing Rekkles as he would be in the Shadow Assassin form, but very good at killing members like sOAZ, the tankier members. Knockup should come in. Now looking for a little bit more. Odoamne is running forward, has the true damage, but they need to work that Alistar down if they want to take him out. Trying to fire back, that's gonna be one kill. Jankos is still alive, needs to ult, does manage to go inside sOAZ, that's gonna be a massive heal. Tries to dash back, Rekkles isn't gonna let it happen. H2K pushing forward. Featherstorm comes out, but they're trying to disengage. Meanwhile, it's Caps in the mid lane. Fnatic getting the better end of the trade as it looks. Broxah trying to buy time.
Yeah, 1-for-1 in. Febiven is trying to get a bit more, but Broxah is still fairly healthy.
Have to push forward. Orianna is returning to the fight. Cho'Gath trying to roam down. Maybe they're trying to shut Caps out. Looking so good, just a trade of blows from the teams.
Yeah, H2K really tried to force that play in the top lane. Febiven, he was running the entire time to try and catch up. And while they did kill Jesiz, it was a nice little turnaround from the rest of Fnatic while also getting that mid lane tower. So still the 3K gold lead. Let's see here. On the minimap, you can see Cassiopeia running from base. They know Caps is mid lane, so they're calling for the engage, feeling confident they can actually win the fight.
But then they just send Febiven down to the middle lane to answer. They think they can win this 4 versus 4, but H2K, they're forced to focus the front line of Jesiz. They use all their resources. Meanwhile, Jankos is getting lower. You see the amount of lifesteal he's getting back, but then Febiven comes back to the fight. He's not there initially, and then H2K, they just start to disengage. They're a little bit worried. They don't want to overcommit. And I feel like there's just a little bit of indecision here from H2K that prevents them from properly closing out this fight.
Yeah, that was definitely some miscommunication across the board here. Febiven not really knowing if he's supposed to join or not. In the end, they go 1-for-1 and they lose a mid lane tier 2 tower. So another win for Fnatic in this game.
Holding that gold advantage in their favor. 4K leading it up. Mountain Drake though, and now as we look at Rekkles, you can see itemization starting to come in a lot quicker than for Nuclear. It has been suffering since that dive on the bottom side, since that play by Broxah.
I want to see now here for Fnatic. They have so much engage with gragas and the Alistar to always reach the backline, and then the Trundle pillar to help them. Again, Trundle pillar against Ashe and Cassiopeia is fantastic. If they do not have flash, they will sit in it, they will be slowed, and that means that the Alistar and gragas will always be able to get close enough to actually fight.
And while sOAZ has died a fair amount throughout this series, he's been caught in lane, he's been caught off slightly out of position. What we can praise him for very easily is his use of teleports in this series. He has found so many amazing flanks to really set up his team for those opportune fights. And when you pair that up with a Trundle too, you get that backline pillar and you have a great fight started for Fnatic.
Odo, he's zoning.
Just running forward,
Deficio.
He's zoning right there, making sure to get some damage on tower. He's just walked into the mid lane and says, I don't want to sit in that side lane. I hate Trundle. I just want to be with my team. We have to remember Baron is spawning now as well, so we get into that point where the Cho'Gath composition can start looking to try and rush it down. They also have Cassiopeia and Kayn to do even more work against it. Fnatic needs to make sure to keep vision on the Baron and mid lane control, so HK do not get that opportunity to get back in the game.
But the unconventional 1-3-1 from Fnatic will keep the gold the same. However, you're right, H2K may need to look to focus vision around the Baron pit. They don't have anything there, but neither does Fnatic, and for now it will be the Mountain Drake set in their sights. Definitely a moment of tension. Right now, gold lead for Fnatic definitely puts them in advantage, but H2K are not in any way out of the game. Baron is the first big advantage that either team can get outside of a massively one-sided team fight.
I'm also keeping my eyes on both these mid laners. Cap sitting at a healthy 1-0-1 with a pretty solid gold or CS advantage, probably a gold advantage too, in the middle lane. Throughout this series, a lot of emphasis and focus has been put on these two mid laners. We wanted to see Febiven have a better performance than compared to what he had versus G2 and Caps. He's a player that was focused a lot in their series versus Misfits, but this game, very little attention has been put on either one. They've been free to scale, and in these next few team fights, they're going to be big damage dealers that can swing fights in either side.
Yeah, game 1 and 2 of the series, we saw a lot of focus from junglers around mid lane in the early game, but they kind of stepped away from that here the last few games. It's been more focused on power farming and then see if you can find either gank in top or a gank in bot lane. Last game, the top lane ganks were in favor of H2K. They completely outplayed Broxah and sOAZ and won that way. This game, Jankos have again been able to get a few top lane kills, but then bot lane was Broxah. Let's see what happens here.
Arrow connects to Broxah, trying to find the disengage. Moving in, Jankos finds the blade reach, but no follow-up here. Fnatic, though, still ready to fight. sOAZ moving in for a little bit more. Both poking at the opposition. Odoamne is in trouble, is going to get taken out. Beautiful shockwave coming in from Caps. Now moving for a little bit more, but Nuclear and Febiven are still alive and untouched. Jankos just going to hop through that wall. Not a big effort on his part, but H2K taking the bad end of that fight. Trying to get out the pillar, coming in as well, just getting poked down.
Fnatic, they're really good at just chasing down as H2K tried to disengage because you have the Alistar, you have the Trundle pillar, and H2K, the only person they could really focus was Broxah, and then Jesiz just got in the way. He was like, no, if you're going to fight anyone, you're going to fight me. And that's not the person that H2K can really target. It is so difficult for them to get onto Rekkles and to get onto Caps with this big, beefy front line that's always standing in their way. And Febiven and Nuke, they just don't have the damage yet to shred through it.
And it's good to see that sOAZ is just following Odoamne. The way you want to play against the big, rush into mid lane as a Cho'Gath is as a split pusher, you say, you know what, it's not about me winning just the side lane. You need to join fights as well. So sOAZ will just follow towards the mid lane, because again, this Trundle will have so much value in the fight. So look at the minimap here, how Cho'Gath is sitting in here, but sOAZ already knows, okay, there might be a fight, I need to be there. Don't just sit in the side lane, join your team.
And you can see here, Odo, the only person they can hit there is Jesiz, but then the chase from Fnatic, the barrel splits up the team members, the pillar there from sOAZ to allow them, and there's no stone plate yet, so they can just chunk down the front line tank.
But right now, we see in the picture-in-picture in the bottom corner of your screen, this is the Baron being started. TP's coming in, but it might be too little too late. Broxah will secure it. That's the Baron for Fnatic. Big advantage going in their favor. 7K lead just about on top of that Baron buff.
Exactly, that is so huge for Fnatic because it removes one of the potential comeback mechanics for H2K for quite some time now. Fnatic can continue to use the Trundle to push in the bot lane wave and then have the rest of the team sitting with enough vision to see if Odoamne is coming or not. If he's not there, Trundle will win the side against him, and the rest of Fnatic are now going to be stronger to push up mid or top lane.
Now we look, map resets, a brief pause in this game. We have to remember the stakes here. Mostly it's about confidence, about showing that you are a team worthy of being Europe's third seed. It is about securing that third place in the split. And right now it's about landing that arrow onto Caps. That is a start of the fight. They wanted to flash out, only one.
Oh, Nuclear!
Nuclear all alone, though. He's going to leave it to the front line. That may not have been the right choice, but Jankos remains untouched, hitting onto those tanks. No flash available for Nuclear. I mean, sOAZ just walks in and seals the deal. Humble Trespass comes out. Decently tanky member. Jankos trying to get knocked back. Blades reach the knockup. Hops through the wall. Is going to be making up, but a shockwave again! The three-man comes in from Caps. Fnatic fighting in the funnel exactly where they want to be, but Odoamne will not die here.
And Rekkles is still split pushing. He just killed the inhib tower. He's going to get the inhibitor as well with the Baron buff.
Blood in their eyes. H2K are blinded by the fight. Too tempted to find the engage opportunity. Nuclear hungry to win a game, to flash
Rekkles
forward.
is still pushing.
But
Fnatic is going to end the game.
Is ready to end, and here in Game 5, we are reminded that this is an era of kings, old and new. And you better be royalty if you want to take them down. Rekkles versus Nuclear, one last dance in the middle of the base. It does not matter. Paris is alive with the sound of Fnatic chants.
25 seconds on Cassiopeia, 10 seconds on Odoamne's Cho'Gath. Fnatic, they're pushing straight for that Nexus.
There they go, moving forward. Jankos may get locked down. Looking to end the game, moving forward. Caps untouched, he's gonna keep free hitting. They're gonna clean up H2K in the process. What a win coming in from Fnatic. Any way that this series could have ended, I would not have expected this, gentlemen. H2K, we were all so tunneled on the fight for so long. Deficio, eyes focused. Who was winning? Who's coming out on top? Beautiful shockwave from Caps. Everything was coming together, but then there was Rekkles in the side lane, split pushing, and
the split pushing AD carry never died.
So long, right after so long.
And I was looking at that fight thinking, I swear someone's dead here. When did H2K get the kill? But it was just because of the side lane threat. Smiles on the faces of Fnatic. And I think H2K can still be pleased with their performance. They made Fnatic work hard for that win. It was not the same 3-0 that Fnatic had back in spring, and H2K demonstrating their growth.
A tough contender in the gauntlet is H2K. But the Kings at the top will be Fnatic. One best of 5 between them and the world stage as your 3rd seed.
And that's so important to highlight. Fnatic are sitting as the final boss in the gauntlet. You need to beat Fnatic if you want to make Worlds. And Fnatic needs to win just one best of 5 to make Worlds. So confidence coming in here. I still love the fact that Jankos, you know, game 5 is like, give me that Kayn. I can pick a boring tank, or I can go Kayn and try and carry the game. It didn't end up working for him, because Fnatic just played better here in the last game.
And I feel like we did see an improvement in terms of, it looked like, at least from my perspective, the pressure. H2K playing much better. There were a lot of mistakes this game from both sides. We can't say that either team played perfectly, but H2K did not crumble under that pressure. But definitely tough. Nuclear coming in with such a clutch performance to help close out the previous game, flashing forward at the wrong time. Ultimately, though, no longer about this series, but eyes forward, looking to the gauntlet, looking towards who will be the final team to represent Europe at the 2017 World Championship.
This is why every single team loves playing in France. When the team is standing there on stage, even when they lose, the crowd is cheering for them and making sure that everyone knows that it was the best of 5 where the winner technically didn't matter for anything in terms of standings. But still great to see both teams going head to head and showing that they're still trying, you know, to be one of the best teams in Europe.
It was a hard-fought series, went to all 5 games. The fans were certainly happy. It was so tense in so many moments. And it's just great to see that kind of performance. What an exciting 3rd place match. And now, only more League of Legends to come. It's an amazing weekend.
Looks like Papa Rekkles there, coming to cheer the boy on. Proud moments coming in. MVP of the split, was disappointed he couldn't find his place in finals, but definitely earned his win today in the 3rd place match. Quick pat on the shoulder from Prawley. Congratulations for a job well done. And H2K still with some smiles on their faces. Paris still showing their support.
Yeah.
You gotta respect that.
Of course, I mean, H2K, they know, okay, take everything they learned last week, this week, work another week, and then you play that gauntlet, and you just gotta win every single BO5 in front of you. They're going to start playing against Splice. Then they have to beat Unicorns, and then they have to beat Fnatic if H2K wants to make Worlds. And it is still the end goal for them.
Today. Pressure, we already have 2 seeds, 2 teams qualified for Europe. It's interesting to see how much the teams have changed when we look at last year. Last year it was Splice, H2K, G2. This year we already have 2 of those teams qualified in Misfits and G2. And the 3rd seed isn't quite what it used to be. Play-ins now coming up as well. This is the hardest road that any European team has ever had to face as a 3rd seed coming into Worlds. You have to battle so much just to find a place in the Worlds group stage. And it's impressive that now that they can keep the focus in a series like this with so many more to come. Well, Fnatic got the win to secure 3rd place in the 2017 EU LCS Summer Split. Let's head over to the main stage and hear from the players.
Merci beaucoup les gars, je vais prendre le relais par ici du coup puisque j'ai été rejoint par sOAZ, Rekkles et Broxah après une partie assez compliquée contre H2K. Thank you guys for joining me on stage and of course congratulations for today. You guys seemed a lot more decisive this week than you did last week. What clicked today within the team that didn't work in the series against Misfits? sOAZ.
I didn't hear.
I'm gonna repeat. Vous aviez l'air bien plus décisif cette semaine que la semaine passée contre Misfits. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé et qu'est-ce qui a marché cette semaine qui vous a manqué la semaine passée?
Je pense que ça s'est beaucoup joué au niveau du practice. La semaine et demie où on devait jouer Misfits, on a eu une semaine assez difficile au niveau des pracs. Et au final, ça a marqué contre Misfits. On s'est un peu rattrapé cette semaine, c'est pas toujours le top, mais c'est beaucoup mieux qu'il y a 2 semaines déjà. Du coup, si on continue comme ça, on pourra sûrement se qualifier, mais faut pas qu'on lâche et qu'on essaye au maximum en prac.
Yeah, actually, what missed last week against Misfits was a lot of practice, but for sOAZ, if they practice hard enough, it will be easy to go to Worlds this year. Actually, the next question is for you, Rekkles. You played Ashe a lot in the last few games, but today you were amazing with Xyaha and Sivir. What helped you change your plan and go on to those picks today?
So first of all, I think I should give a shout out to Hansama because he kind of put me to my place in the semifinals. So I think I wouldn't have changed up so much stuff for today if it weren't for the games against him. And I mean, there's not much else to it really. I just kind of copied his book and I ran it today, and it worked out some games and it didn't work out some games. But I think if he just plays the way he did against us in the semifinal tomorrow, Misfits actually have a chance. So I'm looking forward to seeing that series.
Finalement, c'est les bons conseils de Hansama qui l'ont aidé à choisir ce genre de pick aujourd'hui. Actually, I want to look back into the future because you guys will be competing in the gauntlet shortly. What are Fnatic's actual chances to go to World this year? sOAZ.
Comme je l'avais dit, c'est plus au niveau des practices. On ne sait pas encore quelle équipe on va jouer. Du coup, c'est difficile. On va avoir très peu de temps pour s'adapter en fonction de l'équipe auquel on va jouer. Du coup, faut juste s'entraîner comme si on s'entraînait contre nous-mêmes, quoi. Du coup, on verra, mais je pense que on a nos chances comme toutes les équipes, mais ça va sûrement se jouer au jour même. Comme quand on a joué Misfits, on avait un très mauvais jour. Du coup, si on est en forme et qu'on a un bon esprit d'équipe, je pense qu'on pourra se qualifier pour les Worlds.
Actually, Rekkles, who do you think you will face in the gauntlets? They're really loud. Bon appétit!
It's actually quite fitting because I think Unicorns is going to be the team that no one is really talking about, and that's going to be like the dark horse of the gauntlet. And last year they showed that they were, they were just a lot better than people expected, and I think it's going to be really similar this year. So yeah, it was quite fitting with Romain coming up on stage and everything.
Rekkles s'attend vraiment à avoir une surprise de la part des Unicorns of Love, et il est possible que ce soit leurs adversaires dans le gauntlet. I have a final question, and it's for you, sOAZ, so I'm gonna go en français for this one. La dernière fois que tu t'es retrouvé en France, devant ce public, c'était en 2015, c'était chez Orianna à l'époque. Aujourd'hui, tu remportes cette 3e place chez toi, devant ton public. Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose que tu voudrais dire aux fans français qui sont venus te soutenir aujourd'hui?
Quand on avait joué les Worlds avec Origin pour la phase de groupe à Paris, il y avait très peu de monde et je crois qu'il y avait un peu moins de 1000 personnes, quelque chose comme ça. Et ça faisait plus de bruit que partout, limite. Du coup, ça fait vraiment plaisir de jouer devant le public français en tout cas. Et ils font toujours autant de bruit, ils participent et ils tirent pour toutes les équipes. Du coup, c'est super sympa, je pense, pour peu importe l'équipe qui joue devant un public français. Donc, je pense que tous les joueurs de LoL Pro aiment bien le public français. Ouais.
Congratulations to you guys, and thank you again for joining me on stage. And also, good luck on your games next week. We still have a lot to say about today's matches, so I'm gonna give it back to Shox and the guys at the desk to break down the series.
Merci beaucoup, Laure, pour cette interview formidable. Fantastic interview, I think, all around. I mean, between the baguette and the cape and the crowd, that was something to remember.
I felt like when I saw the baguette, it looked old. Like sOAZ has no teeth.
Romain was like, this is not a fresh baguette. I will make sure he's not in the right headspace for it. No, it was just great. Great job by Laure as well. Just, you said it in the beginning, sOAZ is always underestimated when it comes to the beginning of the season in France, and I think that's a sentiment that is shared wider in the community. But he does show up when it's necessary, but it's going to have to be next week as well.
I think that's the key of like being a veteran. You know when you have to put a lot of effort into your training and your practice. This is what he said during the interview. And when you have sometimes to like go maybe more lightly into the game to keep you fresh for the heavy pressure moments. This is what makes us a key player almost every season in Play-in.
That it does, and just to summarize his last answer there, he said, well, last time we played was in a Dokpilman for Worlds, and there were only 1,000 people, and they're already louder than any crowd in the world. So
Yep.
He's definitely appreciating what's going on here. I'm also looking forward to how much noise it will make tomorrow. However, focusing on today, we also have to crown a player of the series. He got his moment in the beginning of the day, and man, he did great. Rekkles, fantastic stuff, whoops, for him. And I thought it was really cool and a different side of him that he said, you know what, it was all hands Sama. In the semi-final, he showed me the way, and I just tried it today, and I changed up my picks.
For sure. I love the fact that he didn't play Ashe at all. I think Ashe as a champion doesn't fit to Rekkles. Rekkles was in charge, he was doing plays all across the board, and he was always being very impactful.
I think Fnatic, we said they were kind of arrogant facing Misfits, and I find it very humble from Rekkles with the MVP of the Summer Split and MVP of the series saying, I copied Hansama's gameplay and he deserved to be in the final.
Definitely so. Fantastic performance from the whole team. If we look at Fnatic and also looking ahead, what was kind of the most impressive about their performance today? Even though kind of makes me feel dubious because H2K definitely also played very well.
I think the one thing I noticed the most was their adaptation. After the first game, they didn't play through mid instantly. Bam, next game, first blood in mid. And Caps also, he was also the guy that always viewed as a very inconsistent player. I felt like besides not pressing Hourglass on Vladimir, he was consistent all throughout.
There is as well something which is extremely important looking at Fnatic, especially before the Gauntlet. They know how to play from behind, and they never tilted even when they had a big disadvantage in goal. And it's very important looking forward to the Gauntlet next week.
Yeah, that it is. I want to take a look at that bracket for the regional qualifier. As you know, this didn't mean anything for points technically, but it was a great preparation for next week. And then we said it at the beginning of the show, H2K has a terrifying path ahead of them. So Zabutin, after seeing what they did today, do you think
that's even harder to say?
Yeah, it's
because
incredible.
H2K play amazing. Sply showed so much against G2. Fnatic, we know that they can adapt to the new meta, the last meta before Worlds, or the world meta. And there is the hidden boss. You never know what to expect from the Unicorns, and they might be like terrifying. No one knows. No one ever knows what's going on with the Unicorn. So that's the only question mark that would let me like not sure. Yeah, unsure.
I don't even think Unicorns of Love know what they're going to do. He's going to come in.
I'm not even sure they know.
They just tell themselves, we are a wild horse. We're just going to get in there. Well, looking at H2K, I think like coming into like when we talked about what we expected from H2K, I had a lot of questions. And I think they answered a lot of them. They are willing to play like a very competitive mid to late game. They were willing to play to their strength, and mostly they were willing to adapt. Usually H2K was the team was like, oh, they pick one thing, come in with one idea. If it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and they just continue with it. H2K were willing to adapt, and I think that matters so much if you're supposed to win 9 games straight.
For sure, and 3 days in a row as well. So, and the mental aspect not to forget, because you guys said, and we all kind of agreed, if H2K lose the first game, it's over. Probably if they lose another game, it's over, but it wasn't. They gave us 5 very competitive games. They cleaned out a game in Game 4 where all of a sudden Fnatic came back in the game and the fights were very close. So hopefully they can take a lot of positive from this as well. We'll see how it plays out next week. But tomorrow, we have the big highlight of the split with Misfits Gaming and G2 facing off in the EU LCS Summer Finals. And ooh, after getting just a taste of how loud the crowd was today's scene, I cannot wait to see Hansama on that stage. I cannot wait to see G2 on that stage and the two teams battle it out.
I would like to see a beautiful birthday present for Hansama because he deserves so much for his first season as a pro on the LCS. But I'd say G2 is so well prepared and so versatile in the way they approach the game. It will be the toughest match for Misfits from the whole season. But we can expect something because they surprised us so much on the Misfits side, especially Maxler. So I'm expecting a tight series tomorrow.
I have to agree with that sentiment. I think the series is going to be very, very tight. I think the main difference here is Misfits came into the playoffs with a very good grasp of the meta, better than anyone else. A lot of players copied him. We even had Rekkles saying that he copied Hansama, and I think that is a sentiment to Misfits and their strength in their 2 best of 5 that they play. Very well prepared, solved their issues with playing around mid, and I think coming into the 3rd best of 5, I think G2 is a team that can prepare very, very well into this and can also draft accordingly to what Misfit does.
Yeah, and they've also shown G2 when we doubted them in that Splice best of 5 that the clutch individual performances is always there. So I hope we get 5 games again. It's time for us to log off for the night. We'll be back tomorrow with the showdown between Misfits Gaming and G2 at 4:30 with the pre-show. So see you then, and thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you.
Match 1.